Sanjeev, I would love to understand from you what the big picture here is. What are we trying to achieve through this? There are two narratives doing the rounds. One, that this has been done in the context of Russia and the payment issues that we were having with Russia, but that there is, of course, a larger goal here as well of internationalization of the rupee, which we've spoken of for a long time now.
So I think the real story is the longer term one. The idea that this is just narrowly being done because of current geopolitics is not quite the case. So this is a journey that started many years ago, and the idea eventually is that the rupee needs to be ultimately a currency that we should be able to treat like a hard currency. We have aspirations as an emerging global power. Then any economic power then also has a currency that is used widely. It is accepted by other countries as a part of their reserves, ultimately maybe even a part of the IMF's SDR basket and so on. So these are longer term goals that we have, but each one of these you need to take a step. So what you just saw in terms of allowing international settlements in the rupee is one step in that long journey. But do remember that this journey started some time ago. Whether it is, a couple of decades ago when we began to remove capital controls on the rupees, on inflows and outflows. Then over the last 1 decade, very importantly, we began to introduce a inflation targeting mechanism. This is an important part because that enhances the credibility of the rupee and its purchasing power and anchors it. Then through the last few years, you've seen when we dealt with COVID, again, we were very, very conservative about both our fiscal and our monetary policy. We didn't allow money supply, for example, to spiral out as happened in many other, by the way, existing hard currencies. You saw money supply spiking up, including in the case of the dollar. So in some ways, what we have tried to signal is that we are a responsible monetary power. We see that we issue responsibly. It is backed by a responsible state and economic management. So all of these are one brick in the wall at a time that we have introduced. Now we are feeling confident enough to take the next step, which is allow these settlements to happen in the rupee. Now, if it happens to be advantages from some short-term reason, then so be it. But that is not really the overall objective.
Understood. In the near term, though, Sanjeev, and maybe providence or maybe just good timing, there would be a benefit in terms of not just Russia. You take some of the neighboring countries, you take some of the emerging countries in Africa. There are some dollar shortages given the outflows, etc. In that sense, introducing this at this point in time could probably give it a little bit of a leg up, give people more incentive to actually try out this rupee settlement mechanism.
Well, I don't think we can take a very short-term view of this at all, because remember, even if if the regulations change from the perspective of the Reserve Bank of India, it still needs taking up. So importers and exporters have to take it up on our side. Then you need exporters and importers on the other side also to take it up. So this is a long-term rollout. Please don't begin to get too excited about the immediate ramifications of this. These are long-term changes that require many niggling things that will turn up along the way, whether it's in terms of technical systems, regulations, which we will keep smoothening, and through feedback we will keep changing. So yes, I mean, in some specific country they may be particularly keen on it, but that is not why we did it.
Okay, and we also didn't do it from the perspective of reducing some of the dollar outflows. Again, numbers may not be material because a large chunk of your trade is anyway dollar denominated. So even if some exporters and importers do take up this, it would make a very, very marginal difference on any dollar outflows out of India.
Absolutely. Please don't take this up as some sort of a band-aid for any current problem we may be having, or, as I said, do not expect that tomorrow morning, some country is going to shift to the rupee because they all very excited we allowed this. These are long-term changes. They take a long. They have to be done one step at a time. There will be glitches that we will discover. We will fix those glitches and so on and so forth. But it is a very important step. So having said what we shouldn't be focusing on. Let me say what we should be focusing on. In the medium term, we do need to begin to think about the rupee as a currency that is a part of the mix of currencies that exist and are used widely in the world. Obviously, in those countries we have a lot of bilateral trade, they will be easier for us to establish ourselves. But it does mean that once this currency becomes established, we will be able to have much more easier flow of capital, especially that which is dollar denominated. It allows the government, for example, to raise capital much more easily because, again, it's rupee denominated. There is no exchange rate risk, and so on and so forth. So there are many longer term benefits. There are many people on social media who are getting very excited about somehow the rupee's emergence may somehow, mean the decline of the dollar and so on. This is totally not the case. Do remember that there are many hard currencies already in existence, and not just the big ones like the euro or yen or the pound. There is the Swiss franc, there is the Singapore dollar. So there are plenty of other currencies that are freely tradable, are completely internationalized, and it hasn't in any way dented dollar dominance. So that is a different conversation to be had. I'm just putting it out there. That's not your question, but since
no, absolutely.
Many people tend to get excited about this, using this as the frame of reference of discussion. Let me point out that that is absolutely also not the case.